Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, we will come to order. The gentleman from the first has the first bill to be called. Mr. Doorkeeper, if you will herd these cats back into the building. Herd them in, Mr. Keeper. Herd them in. Here we go. Saddle up, boys. I recognize the gentleman from the first.
Mr. President, I would like to ask for House Bill 317 to be taken off the table.
Mr. Secretary, if you'll read the caption.
House Bill 317 by Representative Stevens, and just start reading.
House Bill 317 by Representative Stevens of the 164th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 3 of Chapter 13 of Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated, related to excise tax on rooms, lodgings, and accommodations so as to revise the definition of innkeeper to include marketplace facilitators, to define the term marketplace innkeeper, to expand the state levy of a nightly excise tax to include all rooms, lodgings, and accommodations, to provide for exceptions, to provide for related matters, to provide for an effective date and applicability, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes.
Flip over and read, Mr. President. The committee.
Recognize the gentleman from the first. I'm sorry, we need to read a little further. I beg your pardon.
Mr. President, the Committee of the Senate on Finance recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Senator Hofstetler of the 52nd.
Senate Committee on Rules.
The Senate Committee on Rules offers the following substitute to HB 317. To a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 3 of Chapter 13 of Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to excise tax on rooms, lodgings, and accommodations so as to revise the definition of innkeeper to include marketplace facilitators, to define the term marketplace innkeeper, and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I recognize the gentleman from the first to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a bill that is similar to a bill that we've passed in the past, marketplace facilitator. This equalizes what is, excuse me here just a second. It is a companion for the Marketplace Facilitator Bill. It required platforms to collect and remit the taxes that are already owed but not being collected on behalf of the hotels. It brings parity in the lodging industry, which has taken a big hit, as you can imagine, during this time of COVID. It's the same bill, line by line, comma by comma, that the House passed 147-22. What happened in the Rules Committee, an amendment was passed, and then an amendment was taken off, and that's why it is a substitute. If there are no further questions, I'll be happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I'll yield the well.
You have no questions, Senator. Does any senator wish to speak for or against the measure? The question's on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee that is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The committee of the report is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question now being ordered? The chair hears none. The main question is now ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Those opposed vote nay. Mr. Secretary, if you'll unlock the machines. And they're off. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Mr. Dorfman, is the hallway clear? Mr. Doorkeeper, is the hallway clear? Mr. Secretary, if you lock the machine. The yeas are 31, the nays are 5. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Call upon the senator from the 52nd to speak to a bill for a motion. Gentleman from the 52nd for a motion.
Mr. President, I would ask unanimous consent to move House Bill 653 from the table.
The gentleman from the 52nd has requested unanimous consent to remove House Bill 653 from the table. Mr. Secretary, if you read the caption.
House Bill 653 by Representative Jaspers of the 11th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 26-4-5, the official code of Georgia annotated, relating to definitions relative to the Georgia Pharmacy Practice Act so as to revise the definition of pharmacy care and for other purposes. Mr. President, on March 23rd, the Committee on Senate Health and Human Services recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Watson of the 1st District Chair. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Call upon the gentleman from the 52nd to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill will allow pharmacists to continue to provide COVID testing for 12 months after the expiration of the emergency order when that occurs. It will also allow them to continue to help people with home testing kits that they sell there, that if they want help in the store with it, they'll provide that to them. Pretty simple bill on behalf of the pharmacists. If there's no questions, I'll yield the well.
Call upon the senator from the 30th for a question.
Over here. With Senator Gill,
I'll yield.
is it not true that they're giving vaccinations downstairs in room 203 to everybody in the Capitol today?
230.
230.
I think the senator knows of what he speaks, and I would certainly encourage everyone that hasn't to get the vaccine.
Thank you.
You have no further questions, Senator. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee in favor of the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question now being ordered? The chair hears none. The question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill. All those in favor vote yea. Those opposed vote nay. Mr. Secretary, if you'll unlock the machines. Mr. Doorkeeper, would you check the halls? Mr. Doorkeeper, would you check the halls? Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? She's moving with such determination. Mr. Secretary, if you'll lock the machines. On the measure, the yeas are 48, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Call upon the gentleman from the 56th.
Can you hear me now? Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we take House Bill 327 off the table.
The gentleman from the 56th has moved to take House Bill 327 off the table. Mr. Secretary, if you read the caption.
House Bill 327 by Representative Momtahan of the 17th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to prevent organized retail crime, to amend Chapter 1 of Title 10 of the OCGA relating to selling and other trade practices so as to provide for definitions, provide for certain record-keeping and reporting requirements for the sale and purchase of stored value cards, provide for certain record-keeping and reporting requirements, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Rules recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Mullis. Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Rules offers the following substitute to House Bill 327, a bill to be entitled an act to prevent organized retail crime, to amend Chapter 1 of Title 10 of the OCGA relating to selling and other trade practices so as to provide for definitions, to provide for certain record-keeping and reporting requirements for the sale and purchase of stored valued cards, to provide for penalties for failure to comply, and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator from the 17th, why do you rise?
Ask unanimous consent that the senator from the 16th be excused for business outside the chamber.
Senator from the 16th will be excused. Call upon the senator from the 56th to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill addresses organized retail theft. Organized retail theft is a major problem happening in the state of Georgia, around the nation. There are several versions of this bill, but before I begin, I just want to mention that the part of the bill that was going to regulate online marketplaces has been removed. We will study that over the summer and fall and come back with updated language in 2022. Many of our retailers have signed on in a broad coalition from small to large to address this growing issue. Many years ago, the General Assembly passed legislation for folks that were stealing stuff and then going to pawn shops. We had over time, though, folks now using online marketplaces. And the first thing we needed to do in this bill was to establish that organized retail crime exists and to define it. Just to give you an idea of the scope of this, 75% of retailers saw a major increase from 2019 to 2020 with organized retail crime. Almost 92% of businesses here in Georgia were victims from 2017 to current. Atlanta is the number 7 city in the United States for organized retail crime activity. These are getting worse, and they're getting more complex as the criminals get smarter and more pervasive. A summary of this bill begins on Part 2. This begins with gift cards. We have seen a lot of theft in gift cards, and what this bill does is gift cards sometimes are stolen and then returned back to the store for money. This requires merchants purchasing stored gift cards from individuals on the secondary market, let's say they bought it, then tried to sell it to someone else and bring it back, to record all of those transactions in an effort to connect the dots. It also provides consumer protection to aid the victims who were made part of the fraud, so when the investigation happens, those folks can be made whole. This section also includes aid to law enforcement. Obviously, as we're tracking down those bad actors, whether they be doing it in person or online, we need a way to connect those dots so law enforcement can hold those criminals accountable. Part 3 of this bill establishes the crime of organized retail theft. This is very important as it will bring together the criminal code, and we're going to then put RICO charges in place if we're finding that these criminals are going from multiple stores, multiple times, multiple locations, to show that this is not just simply a shoplifter. This bill is not made to address the individual shoplifter. It's made to look at more of the, we'll call it mob-type activity going on in this area that's been perpetuated by both mobs and gangs. It also allows no-low pleas and gives prosecutors ultimate discretion in order to go after the bad actors, and they can also avoid mandatory minimum sentences. Section 3.4 continues on. At this point, it talks about how we create the RICO charge of over 180 days of crimes being committed in multiple different establishments and aggregating all that information together. This bill has been narrowly drafted in order to help Georgia businesses. These groups working together with law enforcement will now shine a light and will continue to work over the summer, fall, and next year to tighten up this language even more to make sure that we're protecting consumers and we're protecting business owners in the state of Georgia. Mr. President, if there are no questions, I would yield the will.
Senator, you have no questions.
I'd urge your favorable consideration.
Thank you, Senator. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? The question is on adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee or is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main order now ordered? The chair hears none. The main question is ordered. The question on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Those opposed vote nay. Mr. Secretary, if you unlock the machines. Mr. Doorkeeper, if the halls are clear, Mr. Secretary, if you'll lock the machines on the passage of the measure, the yeas are 43 and the nays are 3. This bill having received the requisite constitutional majority is therefore passed. Call upon the senator from the 28th.
Mr. President, I ask for unanimous consent to take HB 606 off the table.
The senator from the 28th has moved to take HB 606 off the table. Mr. Secretary, you read the caption.
House Bill 606 by Representative Nix of the 69th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 20-3-519 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated, relating to definitions regarding Hope scholarships and grants so as to add the Georgia Independent School Association to the list of accrediting agencies and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Higher Education recommends this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Tippins of the 37th District Chair. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Call upon the senator from the 28th to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll yield for questions. I'm serious.
You have no questions,
It's
Senator?
a simple bill. It's all in the words. We're adding GISA to the accrediting organizations. I ask for your favorable consideration of HB 606.
You have no questions. Senator. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Hearing none, is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The committee report is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question now being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill. All those in favor of the bill vote yea. Those opposed vote nay. Mr. Secretary, if you unlock the machines. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Mr. Doorkeeper, Mr. Doorkeeper indicates that the hallways are clear. Mr. Secretary, if you'll lock the machines. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 50, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. The senator from the 41st has his light up. Senator from the 41st, why do you rise?
Ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 26th.
Unanimous consent for the excuse the senator from the 26th. Is there objection? Hearing none, senator is excused. Call upon the senator from the 32nd.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that Senate Bill 383, House Bill 383 be removed from the table.
The senator from the 32nd has moved that House Bill 383 be removed from the table. Mr. Secretary, if you'll read the caption.
House Bill 383 by Representative Carson of the 46th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 1 of Article 3 of Chapter 5 of Title 50 of the OCGA relating to general authority, duties, and procedure relative to state purchasing so as to prohibit the state from entering into certain contracts with an individual or company unless such contracts contain a certification that such individual or company does not presently conduct a boycott of Israel and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Judiciary recommends this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Strickland of the 18th District Chair. Okay. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Judiciary offers the following substitute to House Bill 383, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 1 of Article 3 of Chapter 5 of Title 50 of the OCGA relating to general authority, duties, and procedure relative to state purchasing so as to prohibit the state from entering into certain contracts with a company unless such contracts contain a certification that such company did not presently conduct a boycott of Israel, and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 32nd to speak to the bill. Is there objection to removing HB 383 from the table? Hearing none, the senator from the 32nd is recognized to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a bipartisan bill that updates the state's anti-BDS, which is Boycott, Investment, and Sanctions statute that was passed in 2014 related to our state's trade with Israel. The update clarifies the original law by removing individuals and limiting the bill to contracts of $100,000 or more, which is the minimum amount that triggers a request for a proposal or RFP. This update protects free speech and also protects this important trade relationship with Israel. The bill passed the House with bipartisan support and passed the Senate Judiciary Committee unanimously. I'd ask for your favorable support, and I'll yield the will.
Thank you, Senator. Does any of the senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Hearing none, the question is on adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question now being ordered? The chair hears none. The question is ordered. The question on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Those opposed vote nay. Mr. Secretary, I'll lock machines. Mr. Doorkeeper, the hallway is clear. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? All senators have voted and the hallway is clear. Mr. Secretary, if you'll lock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 47, the nays are 2. This bill having received a requisite constitutional majority is therefore passed. Recognize the senator from the 19th for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask we remove Senate Bill 334 from the table.
The senator from the 19th has requested to move HB 334 from the table. Mr. Secretary, if you read the caption.
House Bill 334 by Representative Gullett of the 19th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 6 of Title 15 and Article 1 of Chapter 17 of Title 45 of the OCGA relating to clerks of superior courts and general provisions regarding notaries public, to amend Part 1 of Article 1 of Chapter 2 of Title 44 and Article 4 of Chapter 18 of Title 50 of the OCGA relating to recording of deeds and other real property and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Judiciary recommends this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Strickland, the 18th District, 719th District Chair. The Senate Committee on Judiciary offers the following substitute to House Bill 334, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 6 of Title 15 and Article 1 of Chapter 17 of Title 45 of the OCGA relating to clerks of superior courts and general provisions regarding notaries public, respectively, so as to provide for remote online notaries public and remote online notarizations, to provide for and revise definitions, and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 19th to speak to the measure. Is there objection to remove it from the table? Hearing none, recognize the senator from the 19th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, members of the Senate. This bill, House Bill 334, actually has quite an interesting history. It started about a year and a half, 2 years ago, as a plan to allow for business permits and business licenses to be notarized online. Great idea. Something I think all of us, most of us in this chamber would support, and really just continues to move our state forward into the 21st century. Along the way, though, it picked up a couple of what we like to, I guess, call Christmas ornaments to hang on the Christmas tree. It picked up a little bit of baggage. And so it's gone from being what was a bill about business licenses and allowing those to be signed online, notarized online, and building permits, allowing those to be notarized online, to something that's a little bit bigger and kind of got a lot more involved. So while I do appreciate what Representative Gullett over there on the House side, I think his proposal was really good and what he brought. I think now it got kind of big, a little bit overbroad. So when the House passed 334 over, it allowed for online notaries on almost everything. Their committee process was going through that process, figuring out everything that should be notarized. But in the wisdom of that committee, they thought that wills and estates, documents that you're signing that lay out what you want done with your life after you die, they thought that those were too important to be included in a digital online notary process. So they separated those out. In our Senate Judiciary Committee, we began to ask questions about that separation, why that was pulled out, and also began to point out that there may be other really important, life-altering, and life-changing documents that probably needed to be wet notarized as well. That being the largest investment most of us in this room will ever make, and most of the citizens we represent will ever make, being real estate closings. So what the Senate Judiciary Committee did is said, if wills are so important to pull out, we should probably pull out real estate closings as well, at least for the time being. Let's let this process run for a year or two, see how good it is. If it works great, we can come back and revisit this. But let's not cause a problem that might affect affect people's wealth, particularly on the largest investment they probably ever make. I think that's extremely important, because while I do think that we're going to move to a digital and an online notary process, y'all have seen, and we have seen in this chamber, how that could possibly be used and go the wrong way. I don't have to bring out the Tom Cruise deepfake argument and tell you about the video that folks saw online where Tom Cruise was saying all kinds of different things. Well, if that's the way we're going to notarize stuff now, that could be a huge issue going forward. We need to make sure that we're in a position to defend against those things before we allow important things like wills and important things like real estate to also be notarized via online notary. Here's what I think is going to happen. We've been negotiating with our friends in the House. We've pulled real estate out right now. What I was going to ask you to do is to just go ahead right now and take this bill down. I was afraid it would be a vehicle for something that would move our state in a direction that we don't want to go. But by working with our friends across the hall, I think in good faith, we owe them the right to send back Representative Gullett's bill close to what it already was, where it does allow for an online notary. So today, what I'm going to ask you to do is, if you don't mind, let's vote favorably on 334 right now, send it back across to the House the way we've changed it, but I want to prepare you now. I expect that they will send it back. And if they send it back with the real estate changes added back on, I'm going to ask you to vote that down later on today. It might be 11 o'clock, might be 12 o'clock, I don't know. But I know when we get to that hour, we're not going to have the time for me to explain it to you like I have now. And it's extremely important, and I can show you examples back at my desk for durable power of attorneys in Cobb County, that if we allowed them to be digitally notarized right now, this person's house would have been sold in the Dominican Republic, and it would have greatly affected their wealth and livelihood. So thank you, Mr. President, for allowing me to go much more in depth than we normally would with a House bill at this time and hour. Right now, I would ask your favorable consideration on House Bill 334, but when it comes back later on today, I'm asking you to stick with me, because if they try to add that again, I just appreciate y'all taking a deeper look as we move forward. Thank you, Mr. President. I'll yield to questions, but after that deep explanation, I hope there are none.
You have no questions, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President.
King Solomon himself could not have explained it better and more just. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Hearing none, the question is on adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee as favor of the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none. The main question is now ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Those opposed vote nay. Mr. Secretary, if you unlock the machines. Mr. Doorkeeper, the hallways are clear. Have all senators voted? Mr. Secretary, if you would lock the machines. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 50, the nays are 0. This measure receiving the requisite constitutional majority is therefore passed. I recognize the gentleman from the Gold Hills of Lumpkin County for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we take House Bill 577 off the table.
The senator from the 51st has moved that we take House Bill 577 off the table. Is there objection? Hearing none, House Bill 577 is removed from the table. Mr. Secretary, if you would read the caption.
House Bill 577 by Representatives Carpenter of the 4th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 32 and Code Section 40-6-181 of the OCGA relating to highways, bridges, and ferries and maximum speed limits respectively, so as to provide for a proposal guarantee for bills upon certain projects, to provide for the licensing of airports and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Rules recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Mullis of the 53rd, Chairman. The Senate Committee on Rules offers the following substitute to House Bill 577. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 12-7-6 of the OCGA relating to best management practices and minimum requirements for rules, regulations, ordinances, or resolutions for land disturbing practices so as to provide for the adoption of rules by the Board of Natural Resources relative to requests for variances for road construction and maintenance projects undertaken by the Georgia Department of Transportation and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the gentleman from the 51st to speak the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, House Bill 577 is a transportation annual cleanup bill. Has several sections in the bill. The first section, Section 1, deals with environmental rulemaking at EPD. It helps to streamline the process to get stream buffer variances whenever there's work being done by the DOT on bridge crossings. Most of these bridge crossings are already in place. A lot of times you'll see a bridge being widened or upgraded. All of these buffers are being done through a 404 permit that's issued by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. This Section 1 just directs the EPD to complete the rulemaking process to expedite these permits. Section 2 and 3 deals with, Section 2 actually deals with bid bonds on routine maintenance. Just some cleanup language on routine maintenance bid bonds, not performance bonds once the contract is signed. Sections 4, 5, 7, and 8 deals with a new procurement method called Construction Manager General Contractor. Construction Manager / General Contractor. This too will help expedite some big projects that GDOT has on the horizon. One example would be the bridge in Savannah that needs to be relocated or elevated to a higher position to allow the bigger ships to come in and out of the Savannah port. Procurement in Section 5 is just cleanup language. Section 7 is update language to the State Road and Tollway Authority. Same in Section 8. And Section 6 deals with licensing of airports, public airports in Georgia. This changes the wording from permit to license. Section 9 deals with statutory changes to CERTA in their code section. And Section 10 changes some verbiage on speed limits, on slow speed limit streets that are normally 30 miles per hour or whichever speed is posted by the municipality or the local government. Mr. Speaker, or Mr. Pro Tem.
We'll not use that language in this chamber.
You know, I was just thinking about my good friend, the Speaker over in the House, how he's probably thinking of us right now. So
well, I'm glad you got a friend over there.
Time to haze.
Mr. You have no questions, Senator.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Hearing none, the question is adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee in favor of the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question now being ordered? The chair hears none. The main question is ordered. The question on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Those opposed vote nay. Mr. Secretary, if you unlock the machines. So. Have all senators voted, Mr. Doorkeeper? The hallways are clear. The yeas are 47. Lock the machines, please. The yeas are 47. The nays are 1. Okay. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 51st.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we take House Bill 588 off the table.
Mr. Secretary, will you please read the caption?
House Bill 588 by Representatives Jaspers of the 11th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 32 of the OCJ relating to highways, bridges, and ferries so as to provide for eligible expenditures for the Georgia Freight Railroad program of the Georgia Department of Transportation. To amend Title 48 of the OCJ relating to revenue and taxation so as to provide for an exemption to state sales and use tax and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Rules recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Mullis of the 53rd, Chairman. The Senate Committee on Rules offers the following substitute to House Bill 588, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 32 of the OCJ relating to highways, bridges, and ferries so as to provide for eligible expenditures for the Georgia Freight Railroad program of the Georgia Department of Transportation, to provide for procedures, conditions, and limitations for financing and letting of projects, and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator from the 51st has asked for unanimous consent that House Bill 588 be taken off the table. Is there objection? Chair hears none, and it's taken off the table. The chair recognizes the majority whip to present House Bill 588.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's good to have you back up here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, House Bill 588 has some of the language that we just referred to in House Bill 577. However, Section 1 deals with a freight and rail infrastructure component that we're going to help put some improvements into our rail and freight corridors, and especially our grade crossings. A lot of you have Class 1, Class 2, and short rail in your districts. This provision of the law will allow the DOT to help you in those needs when your constituents are complaining. Sections 2 and 5 was the language we also saw in House Bill 577 just a few minutes ago. Section 3 deals with the construction manager, general contractor provisions. Section 6 and 8, we're restoring the triggers that we had in House Bill 170 revenues years ago, dealing with hotel, motel fees, electric vehicles, heavy truck fees. We're just basically putting the triggers back in. Section 7 deals with locomotive fuel tax. This is where we're going to dedicate the motor fuel tax from the sale of diesel fuel for locomotives. Currently, that money's going into the general fund. This will dedicate it to its own fund dedicated strictly for roads and bridges and grade crossings, and that will be done to help improve those rail projects that we desperately need funding for. Had this bill not been engrossed, we may have wanted to make an amendment to it, adding some jet fuel tax, but unfortunately this bill is engrossed, so we're not going to do that today, but maybe the wisdom of the House can see fit to add that if they so choose. Mr. President, I'll yield for questions.
You have no questions.
Thank you so much.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against House Bill 588? The chair sees none. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? Chair hears none, and the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to the agreeing the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill. By substitute, all those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? That's a rhetorical question because several of you haven't. Senator from Perry, check your machine. Have all senators voted? Ms. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 49, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Chair recognizes the senator from the 1st.
Which one is it? On the table? Okay. Mr. President, I respectfully ask for House Resolution 248 to come off the table.
Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption?
House Resolution 248 by Representative Stevens of the 164th, a resolution designating the Savannah Logistics Technology Innovation Corridor as an official technology innovation corridor in Georgia and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Economic Development recommends that this resolution do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Thompson of the 14th, Chairman. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator from the 1st has asked for House Resolution 248 to be taken off the table. Is there objection? Chair hears none, and it's removed from the table. The chair recognizes the senator from the 1st to present the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is House Resolution 248. We've been working on this for several years. This basically has been a joint effort between the Savannah technology community and Georgia Southern University, as you know, and Armstrong is part of that. So this basically adjusts the boundaries to include Savannah State, to include Georgia Southern, both campuses in origin, and that's basically all it does, is a change of a boundary. Mr. President, I ask for your favorable consideration, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. I'll yield the well.
Senator has yielded the well. Any other senator wish to speak for or against the resolution? The chair sees none. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Questions on the adoption of the resolution. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Senator from the 7th. Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the adoption of the resolution, the yeas are 49, the nays are 0. The resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Chair recognizes the senator from the 54th.
Yes, Mr. President, I ask for House Bill 517 to be removed from the table.
Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption?
House Bill 517 by Representative Carson of the 46th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 28 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to student scholarship organizations so as to provide for the inclusion of earned interest in the calculation of minimum revenue obligations for scholarships and tuition grants, to require that student scholarship organization audits are conducted in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards, and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Finance recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Huffstetler of the 52nd, Chairman. Senate Finance offers the following substitute to House Bill 517. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 2A of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to student scholarship organizations so as to provide for the inclusion of earned interest in the calculation of minimum revenue obligations for scholarships and tuition grants, and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator from the 54th has asked for unanimous consent for House Bill 517 to be taken off the table. Is there objection? Chair hears none, and it's removed from the table. The chair recognizes the senator from the flooring capital of the world to present the measure.
Not necessarily the carpet capital, but the flooring capital. Thank you, Mr. President. I'm honored to bring to you House Bill 517, friends. House Bill 517 provides parity in participating in the Qualified Education Tax Credit programs to insurance companies that pay Georgia's insurance premium tax. It simply allows insurance companies as financial institutions to participate in the program the same way that companies that pay Georgia's income taxes have always been allowed to participate. House Bill 517 simply gives parity to insurance companies and allows them to participate in the Student Scholarship Organization program the same as other C Corps, and with a cap of 5% or $5 million. Insurance companies are also capped with $5 million at 75% of their corporate liability, not to exceed $1 million. House Bill 517 simply levels the playing field with other C Corps, LLCs, and S Corps who already participate. The 2021 annual SSO cap in Georgia is undersubscribed. More than 20 million of the 100 million still remains available. House Bill 517 will increase participation and lead to more student scholarships being utilized. Mr. President, if there are no questions, I will yield the will.
You do have a question. Chair recognizes the senator from the 42nd to your left.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the senator yield?
I do.
Thank you, Senator. So I just want to make sure I understand. So in this legislation, the $100 million cap that we put in place a few years ago for the student scholarship organizations is not changed.
No, it
That's
is
correct?
not changed.
But because 20 million has not been claimed from the general fund, under the program, we are allowing folks to, individual families that are already using it, to deduct twice the amount they could before. Is that correct?
Twice the amount that they can afford?
No, that they could before. So like you could get the state tax money in the amount of $1,000 as an individual, and now it's up to $2,500, and from $2,500 up to $5,000. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And this fiscal note that we have here shows that there is a state cost of up to $1.2 million a year. Do you agree with that?
We'll just take you at your word for it.
Thank you.
You have no more questions.
Thank you. I ask you for favorable consent.
Any other senator wish to speak for or against House Bill 517? The chair sees none. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? The chair hears none, and the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing with the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Question on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted their machine? We got one more. There we go. Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 30, the nays are 18. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. For what purpose does the senator from the 8th rise?
Mr. President, I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 54th for business inside the Capitol.
Without objection, the senator from the 54th is excused. Chair recognizes the senator from the 32nd for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that House Bill 454 be removed from the table.
Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption?
House Bill 454 by Representatives Newton of the 123rd and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 33-20C-2 of the OCGA relating to online provider directories so as to provide for certain coverage requirements concerning providers that become out of network during a plan year and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Rules recommends that The Senate Committee on Rules recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Mullis of the 53rd Chairman. The Senate Committee on Rules offers the following substitute to House Bill 454. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 33-20C-2 of the OCGA relating to online provider directories so as to provide for certain coverage requirements concerning providers that become out of network during a plan year and for other purposes. Senators Anna Vitarte of the 31st offers the following Amendment 1 to amend House Bill 454 by adding a new Section 2 below line 40, which reads, Chapter 24 of Title 33 of the OCGA relating to insurance generally, so as to amend by revising Code Section 33-24-59.27 as follows. 33-24-59.27. This code section shall become effective January 1st, 2022. Senators Beach of the 21st offers the following Amendment 2 to House Bill 454 by inserting on line 35 after this subsection the following, and with respect to below, only subsection. Additionally, on line 44, strike the following, the provider's network status including. Additionally, beginning on line 45 after the words to the beginning of, insert the following, and all during, and for other purposes. Senators Beach of the 21st offers the following Amendment 3 to House Bill 454 by inserting on line 28 after this subsection the following, and with respect to below. Additionally, on line 36, strike the following, the provider's network status, including, additionally, beginning on line 37 after the words "to the beginning of," insert the following, "and all during," and for other purposes. Senators Anna Vitarte of the 31st offers the following Amendment 4 to amend the Senate Committee on Rules substitute to House Bill 454 by inserting after applicability on line 4 the following: to amend Code Section 33-24-59.27 of the OCGA relating to the right to shop for insurance coverage so as to revise the effective date and for other purposes. Senators Beecher of the 21st offers the following Amendment 5 to House Bill 454 by inserting on line 28 after this subsection the following, and with respect to below only subsection how. Additionally, on line 36, strike the following: the provider's network status, including, beginning on line 37 after the words "to the beginning of," insert the following, "and all during." This completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator from the 32nd has asked for unanimous consent that House Bill 454 be taken off the table. Is there objection? Chair hears none, and it's removed from the table. The chair recognizes the senator from the 32nd to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill is about health insurance. The Fair Businesses Practices Act in Georgia prohibits unfair and deceptive practices in the marketplace and applies to consumer transactions, including sales, leases, rentals, primarily for personal, family, or household purposes, and it prevents bait and switch tactics. Unfortunately, regarding an annual consumer purchase that can involve over $10,000 per family for employer and employee expenses for health insurance, a consumer who chooses during open enrollment based on the listed in-network providers can find that an insurance can cancel that provider in the middle of the plan year, causing the patient to be required to either change providers or pay much higher out-of-network copays and deductibles. House Bill 454 will require insurers to recognize and continue to cover at in-network rates any provider that had been listed as in-network for 180 days. And it also requires providers to accept the previous contracted rate as full payment as well, thus leaving the patient out of the middle. I'll be happy to answer any questions. I understand there are some amendments, but I'll let the author speak to those.
You have a question. Chair recognizes the senator from the 48th with a question.
I might have jumped the gun, but do you yield, Senator?
Yes.
We have a pile of amendments here. Are these friendly amendments to the bill?
I believe they are, but I'm going to have to hear the explanation from the people that wrote the amendments first.
Okay, likewise. Thank you.
That was a very doctorly exchange. You have no more questions.
Thank you. I yield the will.
All right, we've got a sea of amendments here. First, we're going to call up amendment number 1. Chair recognizes the senator from the 31st to speak to amendment number 1. For what purpose does the senator from the 31st rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent to request that amendment number 1 be withdrawn.
Senator from the 31st has asked for unanimous consent for amendment number 1 to be withdrawn. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and amendment number 1 is removed. All right, now we'll take up amendment number 2. And Senator, I'll let you speak to amendments 2, 3, and 5. The chair recognizes the senator from the 21st to speak to his amendments 2, 3, and 5.
Should I withdraw 2 and 3 and just go with 5? I'm just really.
You can make that.
Do I do it here?
You can do it from here. Just tell it, and then when you get back to your desk, just make the motion.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to ask that we remove amendments 2 and
2, 3, and 5. So you want?
Yeah, 2 and 3 we're going to remove, but I want to talk about amendment number 5. It's hard to read on this. I had to have an attorney help me with it, and I want to thank the Secretary of the Senate for helping me and Regina Quick helping me with this amendment. But really, simply, all this amendment does is it simply strengthens the language of the bill to make clear that an insurer would not be able to cancel coverage for patients immediately after open enrollment, leaving the patient without coverage. That's all this amendment does. And with that, Mr. President, I'll yield the will.
You have no question. Oh, you actually do have a question. My apologies. Did you want to yield the well? Senator has yielded the well. Chair recognizes the senator from the 21st for a motion. Hold on one second. There you go.
How do I say it? Remove amendments 2 and 3. Is it? Withdraw.
Senator from the 21st has asked that amendments number 2 and 3 be withdrawn. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and amendments 2 and 3 are withdrawn. All right, now we'll take up amendment number 4. For what purpose does the senator from the 48th rise? She waves. For what purpose does the senator from the 32nd rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm just a little confused and would like to ask the senator from the 22nd if it's in order. The line numbers don't seem to match up with what's in the substitute.
Senator from the 22nd?
I'm 21st.
21st. While we take up the next amendment, why don't y'all two have a conversation? How does that work? That way you can clarify it outside the body. Chair recognizes the senator from the 31st to speak to amendment number 4.
Thank you, Mr. President. Amendment number 4 addresses an issue with right to shop that the legislature passed last year. Right to shop was a healthcare transparency bill from last year that moves the effective date out by 6 months from July 1st, 21 to January 1st, 2022 for implementation, and gives the Department of Insurance more time to implement, as well as aligns our start date with federal transparency rules. This doesn't change anything else in the bill. With that, Mr. President, I yield the well.
Senator has yielded the well. Senator from the 32nd, you got your answer? For what purpose does the senator from the 32nd rise?
I just wanted to let you know that I have my answer, and I appreciate the forbearance, and I'm happy to entertain the amendment.
Thank you for your parliamentary inquiry. Any other senator wish to speak for or against House Bill 454 or the 2 amendments left, amendments 4 and 5? The chair sees none. All right, we'll take up the amendments first. First is amendment number 4 by the senator from the 31st. Is there objection to adopting amendment number 4? The chair hears none. There is objection. All those in favor of adopting amendment number 4 vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. For what purpose does the senator from the 27th rise?
Mr. President, the appropriate time, I'd like to ask that the senator from the 28th be excused.
That'll be right after this vote. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the adoption of amendment number 4, the yeas are 32, the nays are 13, and amendment number 4 is adopted. All right, now we'll take up amendment number 5, the adoption of amendment number 5 by the senator from the 21st. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and amendment number 5 is adopted. Now we'll take up the measure. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute as amended. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute as amended? Chair hears none. The committee substitute as amended is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute? All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Senator from the 36, check your machine. Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 49, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. All right, we're going to move on to some agrees and disagrees. The chair recognizes the senator from the 20th for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 215.
Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption?
Senate Bill 215 by Senators Walker of the 20th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 7 of Title 31 of the OCGA relating to regulation of hospitals and related institutions so as to authorize certified medication aids to administer certain medication to nursing home residents under certain circumstances and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Human Relations and Agriculture recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute. The House offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 215, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 7 of Title 31 of the OCGA relating to regulation of hospitals and related institutions, so as to authorize certified medication aids to administer certain medications to nursing home residents under certain circumstances, to provide for criteria and requirements, and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 20th to speak to his motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 215 authorizes certified medication aids in nursing homes. This bill passed unanimously out of the Senate. The House has simply added some audit requirements for this, which I think strengthens the bill, and they also added the ability for training and certification be provided in assisted living communities, private home care providers, personal care homes, and other long-term care facilities. Nursing homes can already provide this training and certification, just broadens the opportunity for more of that within the industry. I think they're good improvements they made, and I ask for your favorable consideration. I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any. All right, I yield well.
You had no questions. Senator from the 28th was chewing my ear back here. Any other senator wish to speak for or against the motion? The chair sees none. The senator from the 20th has moved that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 215. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Ms. Secretary, please close the machine. On the motion, the yeas are 49, the nays are 0, and the Senate has agreed to the House substitute to Senate Bill 215. Chair recognizes the senator from the 7th.
Mr. President, I move the Senate agree to the House amendment or the House substitute to Senate Resolution 84.
Ms. Secretary, please read the caption.
Senate Resolution 84 by Senators Harper of the 7th and others. A resolution creating the Joint Study Committee on Airport Infrastructure and Improvements and for other purposes. The House offers the following substitute to Senate Resolution 84. A resolution creating the Joint Study Committee on Airport Infrastructure and Improvements and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 7th to speak to his motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, Senate Resolution 84 was the Joint Study Committee on Airport Infrastructure. The House made one change in regards to the makeup of the study committee, and if there are no questions, Mr. President, I yield the will. It can be looked at.
You have no questions. It's a busy day today. Great job. Any other senators wish to speak for or against the motion? Chair sees none. Senator from the 7th has moved that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Resolution 84. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Ms. Secretary, please close the machine. On the motion, the yeas are 51, the nays are 0. The Senate has agreed to the House substitute to Senate Resolution 84. Chair recognizes the senator from the 1st.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate agree to the House substitute for Senate Bill 235.
Mr. Secretary, will you please read the caption?
Senate Bill 235 by Senators Watson of the 1st and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 11 of Title 16 of the OCGA relating to offenses against public order, sort of as to revise the offense of wearing a mask, hood, or device which conceals the identity of the wearer, and for other purposes. The House offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 235. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 11 of Title 16 of the OCGA relating to offenses against public order so as to revise the offense of wearing a mask, code, or device which conceals the identity of the wearer and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 1st to speak to his motion.
So let me just give you a reminder that what this bill does is that when the pandemic is over, that if your physician or healthcare organization or feels as if you should be wearing a mask to protect yourself, whether it's from residual COVID cases or the flu or some other infectious disease, that you would be allowed to wear a mask. And the reason is that prior to the pandemic, it was illegal to wear a mask. And this basically allows us to do that. There were changes in the House Judiciary, and let me speak to the changes. The changes were that what was in case law, we were actually going to go ahead and codify and put it in law, but because it was felt that it had already gone to the Supreme Court twice, that was not necessary, not needed, and would confuse the situation and may have to be tried again. So they simplified things. I appreciate the House Judiciary for doing that. And the gentleman in the back of the room actually was helpful in helping out with that. So I'll be happy to answer questions, but I think it's pretty straightforward. This is the mass bill that we originally voted on. Ask for your favorable consideration, and I'll answer questions.
You have a question. Chair recognizes the senator from the 47th with a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would the senator yield?
Yes.
Just easily, does it have to be a healthcare organization that or a doctor that says, hey, you need a mask? Or if you decide you want to wear a mask for influenza prevention or
I don't think that's
pollen
going to be an
issues?
issue. I personally do not think that's an issue with that.
Thank you.
You have no more questions.
Thank you.
Any other senator wish to speak for or against the motion? The chair sees none. Senator from the 1st has moved that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 235. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? We've got a thumbs up in the hallway. Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the motion, the yeas are 48, the nays are 2, and the Senate has agreed to the House substitute to Senate Bill 235. Chair recognizes the senator from the 28th. For a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like the Senate to agree to House substitute to Senate Bill 246.
Ms. Secretary, please read the caption.
Senate Bill 246 by Senators Brass of the 28th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 20-2-690 of the OCGA relating to educational entities and requirements for private schools and home study programs
so as to provide for the Learning Pod Protection Act, to provide for exemptions applicable to learning pods, and for other purposes. The House offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 246, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 20-2-690 of the OCGA relating to educational entities and requirements for private schools and home study programs, so as to provide for the Learning Pod Protection Act and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 28th to speak to his motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is the Learning Pod bill. The changes that were made, we had to work with the governor's office on just tightening up some language to make sure it didn't interfere with what DeKalb was doing with their family, child care, home daycares. So with that, I'll yield for questions.
You have no questions.
Thank you. I ask for your favorable consideration to SB 246.
Any other senator wish to speak for or against the motion? Chair sees none. Senator from the 28th has moved that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 246. All those in favor vote yea, opposed nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the motion, the yeas are 43, the nays are 8, and the Senate has agreed to the House substitute to Senate Bill 246. Chair recognizes the senator from the 7th.
Mr. President, I move the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 260.
Mr. Secretary, please read the caption.
Senate Bill 260 by Senator Harper of the 7th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 2-12-80 of the OCGA relating to promulgation and adoption of rules and regulations and sharing of information so as to exclude certain soil amendments from regulation and for other purposes. The House offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 260, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 2-12-80 of the OCGA relating to promulgation and adoption of rules and regulations and sharing of information so as to exclude certain soil amendments from regulation, to limit locally adopted buffers and setbacks, to require site-specific nutrient management plans, to amend Code Section 43-51-6 of the OCGA relating to certification of operators of water or wastewater treatment plants and laboratory analysis, renewal, continuing education, and training period, and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 7th to speak to his motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, Senate Bill 260 was a bill that we passed out of here dealing with soil amendments a couple of weeks ago. The House added one provision that would mandate that the operators of a farm where these amendments are being applied would have to have a nutrient management plan to do so. I think that's a good addition. It makes sure the folks that are doing it right continue to do it right, and it ensures those that are the bad actors get their act together and do it right. I know the conference committee just met also, and we're hopefully we'll get the money in the budget in regards to some soil scientists, so the Department of Agriculture will have the resources they need to go after those that are doing this the wrong way. With that, Mr. President, there are no questions. I yield the will.
You have no questions.
Thank you, sir.
Any other senator wish to speak for or against the motion? The chair sees none. Senator from the 7th has moved that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 260. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the motion, the yeas are 32, the nays are 19, and the Senate has agreed to the House substitute to Senate Bill 260. Chair recognizes the senator from the 51st for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate agree to the House amendment to SR 102. Actually, it's
Ms.
House
Secretary, will you
substitute.
please read the caption?
Senate Resolution 102 by Senator Scooch of the 51st and others, a resolution creating the Georgia Commission on E-commerce and Freight Infrastructure Funding and for other purposes. The House offers the following substitute to Senate Resolution 102, a resolution creating the Georgia Commission on E-commerce and Freight Infrastructure Funding and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
For what purpose does the senator from the 23rd rise?
I ask unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 24th for business inside the Capitol.
Without objection, the senator from the 24th is excused. The chair recognizes the senator from the 51st to speak to his motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, this is the study committee on the Freight and the Logistics Commission that we started years ago. This simply extends it through the end of the year. The only changes that were made to the resolution where they took out the members of GMA and ACCG, added 4 members of the House and 4 members of the Senate. Mr. President, I ask for considerable consideration.
You had no questions. Any other senator wish to speak for or against the motion? The chair sees none. The senator from the 51st has moved that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Resolution 102. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Hallway clear. Ms. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the motion, the yeas are 45, the nays are 0, and the Senate has agreed to the House substitute to Senate Resolution 102. Chair recognizes the senator from the 45th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate agree to the House substitute to SR 39.
Ms. Secretary, will you please read the caption?
Senate Resolution 39 by Senator Dixon of the 45th and others, a resolution recognizing the Honorable Charlotte Nash and dedicating an intersection in her honor and for other purposes. The House offers the following substitute to Senate Resolution 39, a resolution dedicating certain portions of the state highway system, repealing a certain resolution, repealing conflicting laws, and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 45th to speak to his motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. We passed Senate Resolution 39 a few weeks ago out of this body. The House has added 14 road and bridge dedications to the bill, and I ask for your favorable consideration. If there are no questions, I yield the well.
You have no questions. Any other senator wish to speak for or against the motion? The chair sees none. Senator from the 45th has moved that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Resolution 39. All those in favor vote yea, opposed nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Hallway clear? Ms. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the motion, the yeas are 45, the nays are 0, and the Senate has agreed to the House substitute to Senate Resolution 39. Chair recognizes the senator from the 37th for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 144.
Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption?
Senate Bill 144 by Senators Tippins of the 37th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 1 of Article 1 of Chapter 3 of Title 8 of the OCGA relating to general provisions for housing authorities so as to limit the ability of city housing authorities to operate outside municipal boundaries without authorization and for other purposes. The House offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 144, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 1 of Article 1 of Chapter 3 of Title 8 of the OCGA relating to general provisions for housing authorities so as to limit the ability of city housing authorities to operate outside municipal boundaries without authorization and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 37th to speak to the motion.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. If you'll recall, Senate Bill 144 had to do with housing authorities and their abilities to go outside of the jurisdictional limits of the political subdivision in which they were incorporated. This bill was amended very slightly in the House, and it actually improved the bill for clarification. I urge your approval of it. If there's no questions, I'll yield the well.
You have no questions. Any other senator wish to speak for or against the motion? The chair sees none. Senator from the 37th has moved that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 144. All those in favor vote yea, opposed nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Ms. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the motion, the yeas are 33, the nays are 14, and the Senate has agreed to the House substitute to Senate Bill 144. Chair once again recognizes the great senator from the 37th District for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 204.
Ms. Secretary, please read the caption.
Senate Bill 204 by Senators Tippins of the 37th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 4 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to vocational, technical, and adult education, so as to provide for the State Board of Technical College System of Georgia to award high school diplomas, to provide for a pilot program by the State Board of the Technical College System of Georgia to allow students who are 16 years of age or older who have completed certain secondary school coursework requirements and who have withdrawn from the secondary school to enroll in the Dual Achieve program at a technical college of this state and achieve a high school diploma, and for other purposes. The House offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 204. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 4 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to vocational, technical, and adult education so as to provide for the State Board of Technical College Systems of Georgia to award high school diplomas, to provide for pilot program by the State Board of Technical College System of Georgia which allows students who are 16 years of age or older who have completed certain coursework requirements, and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 37th to speak to the motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, this is the bill that granted technical colleges the ability to grant a high school diploma as long as it was in conformity with existing state law. The House made some very minor changes. Most of it was just correction of a Scrivener's error and clarifying the expiration date of the pilot program, not of the program itself, but just the pilot. I'd urge your favorable consideration. This is a good bill for a lot of kids in the state of Georgia. Mr. President.
You have no questions. For what purpose does the senator from the 28th rise?
Mr. President, I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 29th.
Without objection, the senator from the 29th is excused. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the motion? The chair sees none. Senator from the 37th has moved that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 204. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Ms. Secretary, please close the machine. On the motion, the yeas are 48, the nays are 0, and the Senate has agreed to the House substitute to Senate Bill 204. Chair recognizes the senator from the 22nd, the minority leader.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 78.
Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption?
Senate Bill 78 by Senators Jones II of the 22nd and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 3 of Article 3 of Chapter 11 of Title 16 of the OCGA relating to invasion of privacy so as to revise the prohibition on electronically transmitting or posting nude or sexually explicit photographs or videos for the purposes of harassing the depicted person and for other purposes. The House offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 78. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 3 of Article 3 of Chapter 11 of Title 16 of the OCGA relating to invasion of privacy so as to revise the prohibition on electronically transmitting or posting nude or sexually explicit photographs or videos for the purposes of harassing the depicted person and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the minority whip to speak to the motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a bill that the House did two things to. Number one, it basically changed our felony penalty from 1 to 10 years to 1 to 5, which was a good thing. And then also we had to insert 2 commas to actually make sure the intent of the bill was carried through. With that, Mr. President, I'll yield for any questions. If not, I'll yield the will.
You have no questions.
Thank you.
Any other senator wish to speak for or against the motion? The chair sees none. The minority whip has moved that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 78. All those in favor vote yea, opposed nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? That's almost a rhetorical question. When I ask that, I know that not all senators have voted. Including the senators from the 37th, I'm just going to go ahead and do this. 37th, senator from the 12th. Even when I call their numbers, they do not. Let's see, who else? Senator from the 5th. This is fun. I'm going to do this on every bill. All right. Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the motion, the yeas are 47, the nays are 0, and the Senate has agreed to the House substitute to Senate Bill 78. Chair recognizes the senator from the 46th for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move that we remove House Bill 617 from the table.
Ms. Secretary, please read the caption.
House Bill 617 by Representatives Martin of the 49th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 3 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to post-secondary education so as to provide that student athletes participating in intercollegiate athletic programs at post-secondary educational institutions may receive compensation for the use of the student athlete's name, image, or likeness, and for other purposes. Senator Calzert of the 46th offers the following Amendment 1 to amend House Bill 617 by inserting after intercollegiate athletics on line 6 to allow team contracts to provide for pooling arrangements subject to certain conditions to provide for reports by the Board of Regents, by inserting after definitions on line 7 to provide for multiple effective dates and for other purposes. Senator Calzert of the 46th offers the following Amendment 2 to amend House Bill 617 by inserting after intercollegiate athletics on line 6 to allow team contracts to provide for pooling arrangements subject to certain conditions, by inserting after definitions on line 7 to provide for contingent effectiveness and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
For what purpose does the senator from the 54th rise?
Yes, Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 31st.
Without objection, the senator from the 31st is excused. Chair recognizes the senator from the 46th to speak to his motion and the amendments.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, you can go ahead and disregard Amendment 1. The reason there, too, is that Amendment 1 was too long and would have constituted a floor substitute and killed my own bill. So we pared that down and removed some reporting requirements, but I'll just talk to the bill with the amendment here. You probably heard other states, started in California a couple of years ago, are beginning to allow their college athletes, amateur athletes, to be compensated for the use of their image, their name, their likeness. Some video games use college players, other advertisers, et cetera, use the names and the jersey numbers and the just the whole character of certain athletes, and they're using them for profit. And this would be allowing players, the amateur athletes, to be compensated when somebody is using their name for profit. It allows them to have an agent to negotiate on their behalf to do that, and it prohibits teams from different athletic programs from stopping their players from doing this, and prohibits conferences from stopping teams or kicking teams out of the conference if they allow athletes to be compensated. What the amendment does is make this effective once the United States Congress passes the law to permit this and the NCAA adopts those kind of regulations. This is going to happen in the future. We don't know when. Everybody says it could be 6 months, it might be a year, it might be 2 years, but before that happens, players that start licensing themselves or getting compensation lose their eligibility, cost their team to forfeit games or not be able to perhaps go on probation or be kicked out of the SEC or whatever. So we don't want it to go in effect until Congress allows it and the NCAA institutes their rules. Each team has what they call a team contract with their players. When players join a collegiate sport, they have to adhere to the standards, rules, policies, procedures of the team. And this allows in that team contract for the teams to decide how to disperse or distribute money earned through these endorsement deals. And you'll notice in the amendment down on line 16, it says that they can require the player to kick at least 75% of their earnings into the school's pool to be divided amongst all team members or players once they've graduated and are no longer amateur athletes. If that makes sense to you, it allows the skill players are going to get all the money. The dudes blocking on the line, et cetera, are helping them score those touchdowns but not getting any money. So a lot of teams will create rules on how to divide it equally among the teams or different athletic programs. That'll be left up to the universities to decide the different sports programs how they want to do it. But this provides that the player is going to at least get to keep 25% of the money that they get through a contract or endorsement deal, something along those lines. So it's kind of perspective. We're actually, I'd say we, speaking of the University of Georgia, we're losing recruits now, some of our in-state schools, to other states that have passed similar bills. Florida in particular has, and other states are taking them under advisements. They're not allowing it yet, but it's going to come as soon as Congress deals with this and the NCAA allows it. So I would be happy to answer any questions, but I would like your favorable consideration of this act.
You have a question. Chair recognizes the senator from the 21st with a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator, yield?
Yes, I yield.
Isn't there an education component to this bill to educate the athletes so they have to take a little class or something?
I appreciate you pointing that out. If you look in this bill on page 4, starting at line 65 down through 77, it requires the institutions to have a financial literacy course to teach these athletes what their rights are, what their potential compensation is, and how to manage their money once they receive that.
And I know you stated this in your comments, but just to be clear, this is just setting up the framework. Nobody's going to receive any money till the NCAA or Congress does this, but Florida's already instituted, so this would put us on an even playing field from a recruiting process, correct?
Exactly. That's what it does. And it keeps the schools from taking away a kid's scholarship if they do. It defines that a scholarship is not compensation. Universities cannot give additional, they can't license their own players, but that's from a third party. When the laws change, we'll be ready to roll.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator.
Chair recognizes the senator from the first to your left with a question.
Does the senator yield?
I yield.
You mentioned the University of Florida is doing this already. Have they done this sort of socialist way of looking at the skills players versus non-skills players?
Yeah, they found out that when the big hotshot wide receiver like you were getting all the money for their scoring touchdowns, that the linemen suddenly quit blocking when they don't get their share of it, or when the pitcher gets all the glory and all the money, the fielders suddenly let balls go between their legs if they not getting treated fairly. Destroys teamwork to let the individual keep all the money.
Does Senator further yield?
I do yield.
Seriously, has University of Florida, they instituted this 75-25?
They do not have, I don't know the details of their bill as far as the division, but they're going to allow their athletes to be compensated in the future, the same thing when
Senator further yield?
I yield.
So University of Florida has not implemented this, and as far as we know, the SEC or NCAA or the University of Georgia or Georgia Tech has not asked for this. As far as we know, this 25-75 split.
Oh no, and you'll notice this allows, I mean, that's up to the different schools to do their own contracts,
Right.
how they want to do it, but this is just guaranteeing they can't seize 100% of the money from the player
So,
that's got the endorsement.
Senator further yield?
I yield.
So this skills player, wide receiver, quarterback, has his image out there, maybe with his linemen, maybe not, and so you're taking that decision away from him relating to his image that is being sold.
No, he's allowed to enter into that contract, but if he's playing on a team, he has to live with his team's rules. And different teams will probably handle this differently, but this prevents any team from taking, more, by not letting the kid keep at least 25% of his money.
Right, so does Senator further yield?
I yield.
So it's sort of local control, does Georgia Tech handle it differently
They
than
could.
the University of Georgia versus Vandy or Valdosta or wherever? So to me, this takes away that local control there, but you're saying that they can't do 25%. What's wrong with 50% or others, I guess, is my local control issue is that.
You could do 50%. What you couldn't do is take away more than 75%. You could do a lesser number if the team chose to.
You have no more questions.
Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure or the amendments? The chair sees none. All right, we're going to take up the amendments first. First, we'll take up the adoption of amendment number 1 by the senator from the 46th. Is there objection to adoption of the amendment? There is For what purpose does the senator from the 46th rise?
We will withdraw. I will withdraw Amendment 1.
Senator from the 46th has asked for amendment number 1 to be withdrawn. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and amendment number 1 is withdrawn. All right, now we'll take up amendment number 2 by the senator from the 46th. Is there objection to adoption of amendment number 2? There is objection. All those in favor of adopting amendment number 2, vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? You got it now. Yeah. Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the adoption of amendment number 2, the yeas are 46, the nays are 6, and amendment number 2 is adopted. All right, now we'll take up the measure. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Question on the passage of the bill as amended. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Take your time. Ms. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 50, the nays are 2. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed as amended. Chair recognizes the senator from the 28th for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. The House is up to it again, and I move that the Senate disagree to the House substitute to SB 195.
Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption?
Senate Bill 195 by Senator Melissa the 53rd, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 2-23-3 of the OCGA relating to definitions regarding hemp farming, so as to revise the definition to provide for related matters and for other purposes.
Senator from the 28th has moved that the Senate disagree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 195.
The House offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 195, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 16 of the OCGA relating to crimes and offenses so as to provide that low THC oil, marijuana, and tetrahydrocannabinoids do not include certain federally approved products and for other purposes.
Would the senator from the 28th like to speak to his motion? He waives. For what purpose does the senator from the 46th rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we agree as amended to Senate Bill 195. I submitted an amendment earlier today. I think it's amendment number 3, but I'm told that amendment 1 will be withdrawn.
That motion does take precedence, and it is a debatable motion. The chair recognizes the senator from the 46th to speak to the motion. Hold on one second, Senator. We're going to read the amendment that you're handing. Chair recognizes the senator from the 46th to speak to his motion. Chair recognizes the secretary to read the amendment.
Senator Cowser of the 46th offers the following amendment to A, to amend the House substitute to Senate Bill 195 by inserting on line 4 the following: to amend Title 16 of the OCGA relating to crimes and offenses so as to update and revise provisions relating to access to medical cannabis, to revise definitions, to provide for a review of new treatment and delivery methods, and for other purposes. Senator Sims of the 12th and others offers the following amendment to House substitute to Senate Bill 195 by striking line 123 and replacing it with, upon request by a designated university, the commission shall issue. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Now the chair recognizes the senator from the 46th to speak to his motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a bill we dealt with. It came through Regulated Industries Committee really 2 years ago that set up our comprehensive licensing system for the production of marijuana to be used for medical purposes. If you might recall, we set up 6 licenses, 2 large licenses, we'll call them. They were type 1 licenses, and then 4 smaller production licenses. We also in the bill had a provision that our land-grant universities, Fort Valley State and the University of Georgia, would apply for a federal license from the NIDA, the National Institute of Drug Abuse, that gave them permission under federal law to grow marijuana, to make products out of it, to study it, so that we could learn more about this Schedule I drug that right now is not legal anywhere in the United States, including Georgia. THC is a Schedule I drug. We have set up this program that Georgia law is not going to prosecute it, but it's still a problem with the federal law. But we're accommodating the industry to try to help our citizens that can benefit from CBD oils and low THC oil products. We set a commission up in that bill, and they really took about a year for them to get appointed. They've now been appointed for about a year, and they still have not issued any licenses. They did come up with the application process, and supposedly about 70-something companies have applied for these 6 licenses, so we expect we'll be seeing movement on that soon. Neither of those land-grant universities have applied for the licenses yet. We're not sure whether they've decided not to do it, whether they're waiting to get the NIDA license, whether they're waiting for the other licenses to be granted, or else they're just not interested, but we don't know yet. The House substitute here to 195 took a hemp bill and completely gutted it and put in a bill to further expand this medical marijuana program. And this bill, I don't even remember the number it came over here as. I want to say it was 645. Went through our health committee, and we had a committee substitute that there was a motion due pass on it, and it failed 8-2. And then that was revamped again and presented to health committee about a week later in a different format, and nobody made a motion to pass it. In fact, there was a motion do not pass, which you rarely see in our committees, and that motion passed 7-3. So it did not come out of committee. That's what you're being faced with here is a bill that the Health and Human Services Committee has rejected. This version is the original House version, which wasn't fully vetted in our Health Committee. There are some different provisions here, but I'm speaking to Amendment 2A. You got in your book Amendments 1 and Amendment 2, and those are identical motions or amendments. What they do is reinstitute some of the authority of the universities to be licensed. It just goes to say they shall be. I agree with that. That's a good change to 195. And so I'm amending that amendment here with 2A to add the changes that I think are appropriate, more consistent with what the Senate's version of medical marijuana is. A lot of this is renumbering, but the first section that's stricken in 195 deals allegedly with a drug called Epidiolex, and that is a kind of a diol CBD product that has 0.1% of THC in it, just trace amounts of THC, and is apparently very effective for pediatric seizure problems. In fact, that drug has been approved by the FDA, so it is now being prescribed in the state of Georgia and elsewhere. This was presented in a whole different House bill that came through Regulated Industries. I think it was 601, and it descheduled Epidiolex, but then put this language in here. It says the term shall not mean products approved by the FDA under Section 505. That's the drug scheduling approval process of FDA to make sure drugs are safe before they are prescribed to people. So it's kind of a backwards way of saying you don't have to be FDA approved to be a low THC oil in this state. So it's a great broadening of what products can be used, if you ask me. I don't know the necessity for this if it's really about Epidiolex. To make sure that that drug is approved, you would have to flip to the back of this bill where we did specifically deal with that drug. Sections 26 and 27 deals with the Epidiolex again. So I took those out, and then put it in the back end of this amendment so that it makes it clear. If you flip to your back page, page 6, Section 24 and 23 definitely address Epidiolex and take it off of Schedule 5 to make it more broadly able to be prescribed, and make it a dangerous drug only, so it's still a prescription drug, but it is specifically allowed in Georgia now so we can help these children. The rest of the bill, what we're doing is trying to limit the expansion of licenses, but also to encourage the research that are done by different universities. And in 195, I do not touch the areas of it that allow other universities to be able to possess these low THC oils, to be able to do research with them in conjunction with a licensee. So it expands the number of universities that are able to do research, but doesn't expand the number that get licenses to grow and manufacture marijuana. The final thing is the industry, the medical marijuana industry, wanted to make clear that they could do more than just grow marijuana for medical marijuana purposes. They wanted to be able to make products as well. And the products are defined in the bill as, oils, tinctures, creams, lotions, those type of things, not marijuana that you can smoke, and not the vaping cartridges with the THC. But it makes it clear. You'll notice in all kind of pages here on the pink version 195, they add THC oil and products. I am fine with that, and I think that probably is a little hyper lawyering to think they had to add and products, but I believe that was probably our intent when we passed the law to allow these licensees to come up with products to take care of these kids or other people in Georgia that need CBD type products and low THC oil products. So don't make any changes in the bill where it adds it to products. The final thing is the dispensing licenses. In addition to these production licenses, there are two types of dispensing licenses that were set forth in the original bill. One were specialized pharmacy licenses that the Board of Pharmacy was to come up with an application process and license, so pharmacies where we get our medicine could carry medical marijuana products if they chose to do so and apply for those licenses. Very broad abilities. There are also retail licenses for non-pharmacies that might want to sell these CBD products and sell low THC oil products. So in this amendment of mine, starting at lines 23, we add a little bit more on licenses, the dispensing licenses, to make them easier to get. And you'll notice on lines 40 to 44, we give these manufacturers that are licensed the ability to get dispensing licenses as well. So it allows them to do that. And we also reiterate there on lines 29 to 34 that the State Board of Pharmacy can give dispensing license to independent pharmacies as well as these specialty licenses. So I think that generally covers it. There was one other section that dealt with how close you could locate one of these facilities to schools and churches, and the House version there lets you be within 3,000 feet. And it would try to strike that totally, so you could be apparently adjacent to a school if you wanted to. And I went back and put in the 1,000-foot radius, reduced it from 3,000 feet to 1,000 to be consistent with the way we treat alcohol, if that makes sense. So with those changes, I think it's something that we can live with. It's really early to already be changing a law that we just passed 2 years ago. They don't even have licenses issued yet. People are anticipating problems, but this addresses a few of those that I think in an appropriate way without over broadly deregulating marijuana. With that, Mr. President, I'll take any questions there may be. I did. Are there any?
You have a question. Chair recognizes the senator from the 15th for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Yield.
Yes, I yield.
Senator, you mentioned our bill in passage 3 years ago, and the land grant universities, must they still apply for any phase, or does this deal only with hemp growing? And why must they reapply if they already grandfathered in to the first bill, if I understand it correctly?
This does not, this makes clear they still have that right. They have not yet applied, but they shall be granted a license if they do. And I don't know if you signed this amendment too, but that's what it says. Upon request by a designated university, the commission shall issue the license. Okay. The 195 left that more in the discretion of the commission, which was kind of perhaps regressing from the rights. We had built it in intentionally so that Fort Valley State, they're a designated university, and the University of Georgia would be issued licenses if they asked for them. And so that's why my amendment is 2A, because 2 makes it clear that Fort Valley State will still be allowed to get a license, be granted a license if they apply for it.
So Senator Seal, one further
Be happy to yield further.
So did the first bill ask them to apply, or were they automatically authorized to do?
The bill we passed 2 years ago automatically authorized them for it, but they had to apply.
They had to apply still?
It actually said they shall apply.
Okay.
It required them to apply, and it shall be granted.
My final, if the senator continues to yield.
Be glad to yield to my sweet mate.
On your amendment, 2A, line 45, the commission shall issue a sufficient number of dispensing licenses. What is a sufficient number? And are you just deliberately leaving that open so they can sort of feel it out based on competition?
We left it open because there's another line in the underlying act that we passed that orders the commission to give enough of these licenses to make the products available to any patients throughout the state. And so that's the idea, is we want to have enough of them out there so that it's available to the patients in every corner of the state. But we didn't want to give a specific number of them until we find out.
Right. Thank you, Senator.
You're welcome.
You have no more questions.
Thank you. I ask for favorable consideration of Amendment 2A and Amendment 2.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 28th to speak to the measure. Chair apologizes. There's a second amendment. The chair would like to recognize the senator from the 12th to speak to amendment number 2. My apologies.
Thank you, Mr. President. Amendment number 2 says, striking lines 123 and replace it with, upon request by a designated university. And those designated universities would be our 1890s land-grant schools, our flagship university, University of Georgia, and Fort Valley State University. The commission shall issue non-transferable designated university licenses for the production of low THC oil and other products, or end products. If there aren't any questions, this is very short and kind of self-explanatory. We wanted to make sure that those two universities receive the same coverage as they did in the original bill. Any
You have
questions?
a question to your right. The chair recognizes the senator from the 2nd.
Senator from the 12th, do you yield?
Yes, sir.
Do your amendment specifically say that it reverts back to the original language when it relates to land-grant universities, the University of Georgia and Fort Valley State University?
Yes, sir, that is the ask.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
You
Thank
have
you,
no
Mr.
more
Ch-
questions.
Thank you. I yield the will.
Does any other senator wish to speak? Or chair recognizes the senator from the 28th to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Look, y'all, I disagreed to try to go ahead and get this thing in conference so that we're not dealing with this thing in the middle of the night. And what Amendment 3 does, it basically guts the bill. Y'all need to know that. And so what's going to happen is this bill is going to go back over to the House, and then it's going to come back over, and what's going to happen? We're going to be in conference. I'm trying to skip a step. Let's get it in a conference. Let's put a limit on the number of dispensaries, and then let's have a debate on the bill. I do support the senator from the 12th Amendment, Amendment 2. I want to make sure that we're very clear that we're not trying to hurt the land-grant universities. That was never the intent of the bill. I still don't think it even says that, but I do want to make sure that we're all very clear on that. But please vote down Amendment 3 and let me get this thing in conference. Let's get it right, because here's the deal. In HB 324, we gave them by law 1 year. We gave them 1 year from the time they get their license to the time they have to have medicine on the shelf. And right now, there is legally no shelf to put it on. So if we don't act now, if we don't act today, tonight, there is no shelf. And if you believe that this is a medicine, if you believe your wife's migraines go away, then we have to have a shelf for her to get that off of. If you believe that kids' seizures are going away, they have to have a way to get it, and they don't. I appreciate the senator from the 46 insight into this. I do. I truly do. I know where his heart's at. But I also know he just doesn't believe in it as a medicine. And he's doing everything he can to delay this so that we're not dealing with this. Let's get this thing into conference, let's get it right, and then let's have the debate. Please vote down Amendment 3 so I can get to conference.
Senate will come back to order. Senate will come back to order. Just want to update everybody on our current status. Because of the way the amendments work, we've seen a reference to amendment number 3. It's really amendment 2A, which is the third amendment. So I just want to make sure everybody's referencing the same amendment. Amendment 3 that's been referenced, I talked to the author of it, agrees with this reference, is actually amendment 2A. Chair would like to recognize the senator from the 53rd to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you heard this, but the senator from the 28th said that he disagrees with the House, which sends it back to the House for us to create a conference committee. This procedure just extends it and makes it longer. The day's getting short. I would recommend, with all due respect, to vote down all the amendments. We're for the senator from the 12th stuff to be in the conference committee, and I would assume that should be considered for that. But please vote down all the amendments so we can start a conference committee on the other side. I appreciate the effort, but it's just delaying the game here. And if I was the referee, I'd throw the flag. Please vote down all the amendments and vote for the senator from the 28th position on disagreeing with the House.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 46th to close debate.
So you're being asked to have faith in the conference committee report that's going to include these
Senator,
amendments.
could you please pause for a minute? If we could all take our seats and cease all audible conversations and give our attention to the Senator Noel. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. So that strategy suggested by the senator from the 53rd means you've got to put your complete faith in a conference committee report is going to be what you want. And it doesn't guarantee the senator from the 12th amendment to protect the historically black university system and the University of Georgia's rights here. And this is the way we go through this process. There's an awful lot of 195 that is intact. This is not completely gutting it. It lets them add products. It gives additional licenses to the production licensees to have retail licenses. Creates that. This is, with or without this bill, no product is getting on the shelf until, first of all, licenses are granted by the commission that we established, and they grow marijuana and produce oil out of it or whatever other products out of it. And then the same commission is who grants these retail dispensing licenses or pharmacist licenses. They haven't done that yet. This bill doesn't make that happen overnight. It's the commission that has to do it. You don't have to have this bill passed for that to occur. We already passed that bill 2 years ago, and we set up the commission and we told them, issue production licenses, issue dispensing licenses. They just have to do their job. They don't need this bill to do it. This gives them more options to approve other research and to grant additional dispensing licenses to these manufacturers. I say the Senate ought to do it the way we think's done, send it to the House, and if they want to disagree, fine, then we go to conference. If they agree that they're getting 80% of what they sent over here and think these changes are beneficial, then they'll simply agree and we won't even have to be going to conference. Let's let this process work. It's, what is that, 3:45 in the afternoon? We got another 7 or 8 hours to go. I think this is just a very finely tuned method to expand the rights without going crazy and heading into recreational marijuana. So I'm going to ask us to pass Amendment 2A and Amendment 2, and let's agree as amended and send it back over to the House for action at this time.
Senator has closed debate. For what purpose does the senator from the 29th rise?
Mr. President, I ask for unanimous consent that I be recused from this vote based on Senate Rule 1-4.4.
Senator from the 29th has asked for unanimous consent to be excused from this vote without objection. All right, we're going to take up the First Amendment, Amendment 2A, from the Senator from the 46th. The question is on the adoption of Amendment 2A. All those in favor of Amendment 2A, vote yea. Opposed, nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? I can see him. I'm just asking a question. Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the adoption of Amendment number 2A, the yeas are 8, the nays are 41, and the amendment is lost. For what purpose does the Senator from the 46th rise?
Mr. President, I move that we agree to House substitute to Senate Bill 195.
That motion is out of order at this point. We're on Amendment 2. All right, the Senate will come back to order just to get us up to our current posture. Obviously, this is a complicated spot. So the vote that we're going to take here is the Senator from the 46th has moved that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 195 as amended by the Senate through Amendment number 2. That's the question. I'll read it one more time. Senator from the 46th has moved that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 195 as amended by the Senate by amendment number 2. For what purpose does the senator from the 12th rise?
Inquiry,
State your
please.
inquiry.
Isn't it true that if we vote this bill down, vote the amendment, I'm sorry, the amendment down, that it will go into conference?
We are voting on the underlying, on the overall measure perfected by this amendment.
Okay.
And the vote
Okay.
will be on the bill with this amendment automatically attached.
All right, thank you.
That's the current posture.
Thank you.
All right, one last time, and then we'll put it on the board. The Senator from the 46 has moved that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 195 as amended by the Senate through amendment number 2. All those in favor vote yea, opposed nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Mr. Secretary? Oh, we got one more. Okay, there we go. Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the motion, the yeas are 3, the nays are 47. And amendment number 2 is lost. And the measure has failed. Chair recognizes the, just as a reminder, the senator from the 28th, your original motion is now in order. So to refresh everyone's memory, the senator from the 28th has moved that the Senate disagree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 195. Would the senator like to speak to that motion? He waves. Any other senator wish to speak for or against the motion? Is there objection? The chair sees none. All those in favor of... I'm trying to make this harder than it is. Is there objection? The chair hears none and the Senate has disagreed. For what purpose does the senator...
Mr. President.
For what purpose does the senator from the second rise?
What's the posture on amendment number 2?
Prior to the no objection on the previous motion, that amendment could have been lifted up. But because there was no objection and this body has disagreed, that amendment is lost. All right, we're going to stand at ease till 4:45. Let everybody catch their breath a little bit. I got to go shake around some amendments that are moving around. We'll stand at ease until 4:45.